Hello, welcome to Domain to Profit. I'm Drew Wash. Each week, we look at through hundreds of thousands of domain names that the old owners have let expire, and we find some that you may be interested in. Interested how? Well, possibly buy it to develop it, turn it into a business, turn it into something that brings the world value and adds value to your life as well. So we're going to be looking through this week's domain opportunities, the domains that are out on the launch pad. The rockets fueled up, ready to go. They're just looking for the crew. So maybe that's you. Maybe I'll show you some domain auctions. And then today we're also going to be looking at the next step. How do you develop those domain names? What's one way that you can develop? So chances are you're not a programmer. You're not a coder. You're not somebody that sees a domain name and goes, I'm going to build a website on that. I'm going to build a business on this domain name. That may be you. You're like, I don't even know why I would be interested in a domain name. Well, today we're going to be talking about no-code options to turn a domain name into a website or a web app. So exciting stuff for the non-technical crowd out there, which I assume is quite a few of us. So we're going to be looking at a couple of those tools and how you can use them really, really early into a development opportunity. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have lots of good stuff for that. If you would, say hi to the others in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from, maybe what you're hoping to get out of things, and I'll see you on the other side.
From domain to profit, from a .com to a business idea. Take a domain name, develop an income from domain to profit. We'll show you how. Domain to profit, from domain to profit. Join Drew Wash and get started right now.
Alrighty, nice to see Lee. I saw that you're promoting me over on Twitter. I always appreciate that. Appreciate everybody that's kind of giving a shout out. I think that there's always good things that happen right here. Life change can happen right here on this show with just some guy getting on here talking to you on the camera for a little bit, and maybe your life can change. I know domain development and developing businesses on domains has changed my life. So then we got Matt in the chat. So howdy, Matt. Always appreciate the help and keeping the chat or keeping things moving in the chat and things. So we have a lot to go over, and I'm assuming that there's going to be a couple that aren't really familiar with what we do here. So I'm going to start from the beginning, and that is, what kind of domains do we develop? What are we looking for? What's the purpose? And we're going to start with this here, something we do called, and let me just, I'll give Lee here shout out. Yep, hey, Drew, and everyone. So Lee's a good person to ask in the chat. He's awesome. He does a lot of development himself. So what I want to do is talk about the 3-minute business plan. This is the template over here that we talk about domain names in pretty frequently. So we look at a domain name, we look at the market and the audience that would be using that domain name or somehow providing money, your revenue source. We look at a problem that they might have, a solution that we could put up on that domain name, and then possibly some ways that we can market that domain name. What are some of the ways that we can talk about that domain name to basically find our audience and sell our service to them? Pretty straightforward business. And I welcome questions if you have any, because realistically, I know that, I do this stuff all the time. So I don't tend to remember all the time the things that you don't, or let me get that backwards. Let me get that straight here. I, a lot of times, just brush over things that you might have questions about. So please ask them if you have them. Pull it out of the brain and into your life so that way we can get to some life change, which is the goal here. So there is a movement that is happening, and it's been happening for a really long time. And that is this idea that we don't want to program, we just want to be able to create stuff. And I've seen this, I am a programmer, so I've spent time, learning how to program different languages and different things. But ever since I started to program way back in the day, there's always been this idea that you won't have to learn how to program. You'll be able to use a tool and logically walk through creating something without actually have to get into the code? Well, I've always highly encouraged people to learn how to program. I think it's an important piece of how we interact with our world nowadays. But I also understand that you may have a day job. You likely have a day job, and it probably isn't as a programmer. So you may be here as a school teacher or as a student or in some other role, but you have an idea and you want to create it. How do you do that without hiring some expensive programmer? Or how do you do it where you can actually see meaningful movement on something you want to create? Seems reasonable, right? You want to create something. How can you do it yourself? Maybe you change your oil in your own car. I've done that like twice. I just prefer to pay somebody else to do it. But realistically, we want to do it ourselves. We want to create it. We want to start it from start to finish. So some of the no code tools, if you do a search for no code, you're going to find a lot of resources. We're going to be talking about some of them today. And those no code resources may be the tools that allow you, no matter what your technical background is, to create something and put it out in the world to create value. So what are you going to create on? That is always the first thing that we talk about. So we're going to look at some of the domain names that are available this week. We're going to start going through our partners over on expireddomains.net. I say our partners, but realistically, they provide a free tool and we use it. So we might like to give them a shout out. So over here, this is expireddomains.net. It's the tool that we use to look over domain names. These are domain names that are expiring this week. So things like chicagopizza.com, that if you love Chicago pizza, that may be your thing. And I know my video down in the corner down there gets a little funky when I got the screen shared, but hey, the screen is the most important thing. So quicktest.com, so domain name that's going to be expiring this week. That could be, who knows? Right now in the COVID era, maybe it's a database to show you where you could find quick COVID tests, something like that. I just was out of the country, and they had a 10-minute COVID test that you could do. So quicktest.com ends in 6 days, 22 hours, so 7 days, currently up over $1,500. So already costing a little bit of money, but quicktest.com is one of the domain names, and that is over on GoDaddy Auctions. You can get to it, auctions.godaddy.com. GoDaddy.com is where you would find this one, and this is an expired domain auction. $1,500 ending in 7 days. So whether you are running COVID tests, or maybe you want to put together some little social viral test where you answer survey questions and you find out what kind of car you would be from the 80s, what color light bulb you would be, what color is your aura. I don't know. There's silly little quick tests that we do in social media to share whatever it is that we are. I don't know. You put something like that up on quicktest.com. Not sure if there's no code options for that, but one of the domains that are available this week. So let's keep going down the list here that we have. Real funds. So all of these domains, not all of them are award winners. I like whatthefork.com. I think my wife, Crystal, also likes What the Fork. What the Fork, man. I can't remember what the show that comes from, but good place. Crystal says the good place is where What the Fork comes from. But that is a domain name that will be expiring this week. I think it already has a couple $100 down on the auction. Let's check it out. Oh, wow. Not just a couple $100. It's over $1,500 also. So it's an unusual. You'll find that a lot of the ones that we'll talk about are actually just, a few dozen dollars or a few $100s. So senior advisors, possibly you want to put together a blog or information for those who possibly, let's see, seniors. We have both seniors in school as well as senior citizens. Senior citizens, you can advise on possibly senior living, assisted senior living, nursing homes, and things like that. There's certainly a lot that you have to learn, and there's only a certain period of time that you ever will learn that. So senioradvisors.com might be a service or directory, or you could even go the route of advising high school seniors or college seniors, whether it's the phase of their life where they need to find employment or need to find a college. One or the other. Senioradvisors.com. Adbuilder.com. What a great domain name. As a marketer, as an advertiser, I'm a huge fan of this one. So this one's currently $630 over on GoDaddy Auctions. $5 or 5 days away. So adbuilder.com. If this one gets to the final auction, how great is that? Let's place a bid on that one to get my name in the up. Of course not. I'm throwing my hat in the ring, but GoDaddy locked me out. One more time. Boom. I'm sure I'm outbid, but there we go. Hat in the ring for adbuilder.com. Great domain name. As you could imagine with adbuilder.com, it's a great opportunity to pull out the 3-minute business plan and talk about something that we put on this domain name. Who's your audience going to be? Who are the people that are going to use adbuilder.com? The domain name itself is going to specify what you can put on that domain name. Adbuilder. You can go there. Well, let's talk about the audience first. It's going to be marketers. It's going to be small businesses. It's going to be people that need to build ads, but maybe don't necessarily have the expertise to build an effective ad that gets results. So you could either provide, so how can you serve those people? You could do one, you could provide a physical service or a service where they pay you to design your ads. So possibly you're a graphics person or something like that. You just put on adbuilder.com. Hey, I'm a graphics person and I build ads for you. Nice basic way to use adbuilder.com. But how about the idea you can create a tool that allows people to enter some information and you create different ads of different sizes. For example, get a little technical here, but Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, all of them need ads at different sizes and they recommend different, formats. You build all those formats all at once with like a background image and then some headlines, things like that. Not sure if it's something you'd build with no code or not, with some no code development tools, but hey, if you can, go for it. Because then you just charge your audience, those marketers or people that are looking for those ads, charge them $20, $30, $40, $50 to have those ads created. And now you have a service that you're helping those marketers and small businesses, and you're making a little bit of something back in return. So great domain name for that, adbuilder.com. Certainly worth adding to your list of domain names that you might be bidding on this week. As you can see, I went ahead and tossed in a bid because it's a great domain. So let's go back to our list here. So we have kind of scrolling by some of these domains. You'll see not all of them are winners. Some of them, something might catch your eye that you love. But for me, most of these are not of interest. Boatshopper.com. I like that one. That one's pretty good. If anybody's interested in boats. Let me see. Boatshopper.com. Anybody, How I Met Your Mother. Boats. Okay, so that one's already close to $900. So we got some expensive domains going this week. That ends in about 5 days. So if you sell boats or know somebody that sells boats, certainly worth checking out boatshopper.com. And as you might expect, that one's a pretty simple, straightforward business type thing. You're going to have visitors to your site that are looking to buy boats. Then your customer is probably going to be those who are looking to sell boats. And you charge to either list a boat or come up with a service for those who are looking to buy boats. Voila, start to make money listing boats for sale, boatshopper.com. So pretty good opportunity, a few $100 ending this week. Let's go back to the domain names. Now, if you're not familiar with expired domain auctions, essentially people register domain names and for whatever reason, they let the domain name expire. And that creates an opportunity for you to come in and potentially register that domain name. They go up for auction once they expire, typically. And then the question comes down to, is it worth, can you get it at a price that you can develop it and put something up and make some money? Gardenlandscape.com. I love landscaping ones. There's a lot of small local businesses that deal with landscaping. It's hard to find landscaping domain names because it's a great business model. So $271 is the current bid. 2 days left in that auction. So certainly I'm going to toss my hat in the ring on that one as well. So again, outbid. But there's not too many landscaping domain names are hard to come by. So certainly, if you look for some of that, you're going to have trouble finding them. Online file storage, not sure what you would do with that, but certainly option. Here we go. Sexualtherapy.com. Sexualtherapy.com. Not my expertise. It's enough to make me blush a little maybe, but 3 days out, $260. And who knows? I'm sure there's lots of people out there that need service related to sexual therapy as well as the therapists that deal with it. So bring those two people together in just a directory type business where therapist lists and then people could find them. Monthly subscription from the therapists themselves. $260 is the current auction, ends in 3 days. I'm guessing that will probably go maybe under $1,000. So possibly a nice little niche play if that's of interest to you. Wedding, garage conversions. Okay. Maybe if you're looking to convert a garage into a room for your house, certainly something that may be interested. Broker Central. Don't know whether it's real estate or any other kind of broker. There's a lot of them out there. So an interesting domain name. Up at the top here, we have electronicrepairs.com. I'm not sure how many repair shops there are for electronics anymore, but if there are out there, those local companies, you could always list them on here, have videos that show how to do the repairs yourself. Interesting electronic repairs under drinking market team. Amsterdam Guide. That one might be a nice geo option for the travel industry. Amsterdamguide.com. We're going to continue to talk here about no code. I'm just kind of trying to find a domain name that maybe we can dive into. My Bartender, which we have bartenders.com. So that's always an interesting domain name. And running down through this list, and I'm only looking at about the first page of the domains today. So you might want to go over to expireddomains.net and go to the marketplace and the GoDaddy domain names. If you want to look at these, you can also look at Dropcatch or Snap Names, some of the other domain expiration services as well. Let's see. Running a little while you're driving. Marijuana Mafia. That's a fun one. You never know what you're going to see. This is definitely, luckily we don't see too many adult domains, but they certainly can happen. Okay, well, we'll dive into, let's dive into the topic of no code. I'm going to go over to the next page, zoom in, and we'll come back to this here in a little bit. So let's talk about no code a little bit. So no code, as I was mentioning, is this idea that you can create something. You can create a website. You can create a web app without needing to write code. You don't need to be a programmer to create. When you're in the shower and you're washing your hair and you're like, oh, that's a great idea. I wish somebody would come up with that. Maybe you are the person that can come up with that using some no code options. So I did a post out on Twitter and asked, what are some no code options out there? As a programmer, I don't pay attention to no code much other than to know that there's some good options out there nowadays. So I started to get a bunch of different people tagging no code options, and I started to look into a few of them. I, by no means, am a no code expert, but some of the options that came my way really got my attention. They've really come a long way, and I could see that somebody that wants to put together an app or a website for their business or for any of these different business models that we've already discussed on some of these domains, makes sense. So let's look at some of the actual no-code domains that are available, or some of the no-code services. So that post that I did over on Twitter was the it came. I got a few options. The one that I was told was the most common or most used, which I agree, I do see a lot of people that are using it, is a service called Bubble. So it's bubble.io. And this is a no-code option. And I kind of found that the interface is a little more workflow based. So you can see here, it's kind of like when something happens, it moves on to the next piece. It seems to be for a little more of a technical person. However, if you've dealt with maybe graphics programs or WYSIWYG editors where you drag and drop and format websites or anything like that, then Bubble.io is certainly an option for you, and it gives you a lot of depth. So the things that you can make on Bubble, if it's not a straightforward no-code option, Bubble is a great option for having different data sources and all kinds of different things. Now, if the idea of API or database or any of the things I just said make you go, that sounds too technical for me, then you may be better off with an option like Adalo. Let me pull up Adalo. So Adalo is one that's a little less technical, and it is based on screens. So you drag and drop a screen onto, let's see if we have a little demo here. You drag and drop a screen that you want, and then you just connect the elements around. Again, it's a little bit more of a WYSIWYG type editor. It's a step towards a little easier code than a bubble.com. But if you are still like, oh, wow, this is still technical, I don't know what any of this stuff is, I want to show you the easiest option. So this is the no-code option that I found that is like super simple, and in many cases, it gives you a lot of the code already. So in that code, that option is this one here. It is a service called Glide, glideapps.com. And this service really, as I started to look into this, one, it's super simple, which I'll show you here in a second. But when it comes to domain development, it seemed to really offer some depth to it, which when I talk about domain development, I a lot of times say, hey, get the domain name and then implement the 3 C's. You put up a form that you start to capture the people that are coming to that site, get their email address, their name, and kind of ask what they were there for. And then you have a conversation with them. The second C is conversation or converse. And then the third piece is to convert them. So when you build something, you convert them to somebody that uses the service, somebody that tells people about the service, or possibly a paying customer. Well, it occurred to me as I was diving into Glide apps, that you can actually add a 4th C, which would be the construction piece. The idea that you can actually build something in this process of buying a domain name, and boom, you can put something out there on that domain name that will help you with the other 3 C's. You'll be able to capture their information right through this basic no-code app. Then you'll be able to talk to them, and you may be able to convert them through the actual app without needing to build something out or do a bunch of work after the fact. If that doesn't make sense, put on your imagination a little bit, and I'm going to drink a little coffee, and we're going to dive into this, and I'm going to show you how you can put up a basic directory website in just a few minutes that you may be able to actually talk to the people that are visiting your domain name that you buy, and get them to enter information, capture it, and possibly even trade some money for some value that you can provide through your domain name. Okay. So here's how Glide works. You can create a new app from scratch. Glide works off of Google Sheets. So have you dealt with Excel spreadsheets? Possibly. I'm guessing so. You don't have to be a techie to have dealt with Excel. And of course, there's sheets.google.com, which is Excel through Google Drive or Google's services. So possibly you've dealt with those before. Glide and some of these other tools as well, they actually use Google Sheets as a database. It's where you store the information for the website, which, here in our office and, on towing.com and our other sites, we build all these crazy elaborate databases and they all interconnect to all kinds of code and stuff. So the simplicity of this is just like mind boggling. And not only do they use Google Sheets to do this, they will actually build the Google Sheets for you to where you don't even have to go and do that. Like okay, let's go hands-on. So when you create your free account, this is a little bit of what the Glide apps will look like. And you'll see that you can add an app or you can use these templates. Now the templates are where you really get powerful. Templates are where you get to cheat and jump ahead and you don't have to figure everything out yourself. Yes, watch the videos, learn the tools, be able to do everything yourself because that's how you're going to get the power out of the tool. But you could start and cheat and just jump ahead using one of the templates that Glide has made or one of the other visitors that have made a template and shared it with you publicly. And you can buy some too. So let's look at some of these templates, specifically one of them that I think gets us like 80% of the way towards having a domain name developed. So here we go. We're going to dive in. Here's some of the templates. So when I say that Glide Apps has a bunch of different templates, you'll see here all these different categories and templates. So depending on what you're looking to build, they may already have a template that's very similar. So, and these are all free. So if you're building a planner app or I don't know, a mobile restaurant, but you could look into these templates, a city guide. So if you're looking at that domain name we mentioned, amsterdamguide.com, that one was one of the Google GoDaddy auctions ending. Here you go. You can use a template through Glide Apps and build a city guide app and website all within a click of a button. I mean, how about that? Like you copy the app for free. You only pay when you want to put it on your domain name so you can practice for free. I hope you kind of boom, amsterdamguide.com, boom, city guide app on Glide Apps, and now you're ready for the next step. Like you've not programmed anything. That's so cool. I mean, I'm geeking out over this stuff. Okay, so to copy the app, you would click here. For the sake of this, though, because here every week we talk pretty frequently about we talk about a directory structure. So the idea of towing.com, we put a domain name up, and then we allow towing companies to sign up and show themselves on the domain name, and then visitors to the site come and find those companies. We use that domain name to provide authority for that company, authenticity and validation that, hey, they're a company, they're registered on that domain name. They're a towing company on towing.com, which of course is where they should be. So for example, amsterdamguide.com, if you're in Amsterdam and you run some tourist attraction, chances are you'd want to be on amsterdamguide.com, which just sounds like a domain name about the travel industry in Amsterdam. So the directory site that we typically build, it's like a towing.com type site or a photobooths.com site or bartenders.com. When we build that out, for example, those are going to be directories. We're going to be showing people, we're going to be showing buildings or bars or businesses, and we're going to need a way for them to have a profile, have some information. So let me show you this template that we have through Glide Apps. I found that the employees one, you can use almost any of these other templates, but the employees app, watch this. We're going to click on this, and we are going to we're going to copy the template. And behind the scenes, Glide's doing their thing. They're keeping it nice and easy to where we don't have to spend a ton of time figuring things out. So here's our default app. This is our employees app. So you'll see here, it's showing some various people that are on the app. And when you click on their photo, It shows some more information about them. It shows their building or company that they're associated with. It shows also like employees in this case. And you're kind of like, okay, what's that have to do with a directory? Say we were building out, one of the domains was, trying to get an idea of what that. So, for example, one of the domains was mybartender.com. So say that you have a list of your bartenders on here. Well, don't think of it as staff. Think of it as my bartenders. So boom, these are all bartenders now. And you can search through them. So say we're looking for Alan or whatever else. The search, all of this is already built. You could publish this app right now as it is. That's the like scary, crazy part. So where's the data stored? You'll see here, this screen is saved to the source, and you can get to the data here. So this is what the database looks like in Glide. It is, this is pulling in the basically Google Sheets. You can see this Google Sheets icon over here. And they assigned all this stuff already. They've created this. So we have Maria, we have their titles, their numbers, their email addresses. You can upload photos, and you can see all this information that we saw when we viewed the app is all built into the spreadsheet here. So you basically have a head start. So even though it says staff on the sheet, we just changed it to my bartenders over here. And if we want to go over to our data and we want to say locations, like these can be bars. This could be Drew's Bar. Or, Chuck's Pub. So you can basically customize, start using this as if it's your own app. And then now we have my bartenders, and we'll see Maria's manages different locations. And let's see here. Let's see if that data up. I have to refresh it. So let me go refresh my data. And how this stuff works, you just you'll figure it out as you go along. So Chuck's, and there's Chuck's Pub. So now, basically, you will create an opportunity for people to add their own stuff. Like I said, it gets you, 80% of the way. It gets you part of the way there. So can you see how this app could be something that's on your website? So when you are looking to take one of your domain names that you buy and you want to capture who's showing up there, well, you can capture them and add them to a waiting list or a mailing list, which is what we do. We currently have a form up on our websites, and we capture their name and their email address, which, let me actually go back over to the screens. I'll show you what it looks like a little bit. So here's our list of our domain names. For example, we've talked about Detailer, Bouncies.com, Duck Cleaners, and these are the sites that are waiting. So tourguides.com, for example. When you visit those domains, it looks like something like this, a very basic landing page, and they have the opportunity to join the waiting list. So instead of doing this, where we are capturing their information in our database for some future endeavor, what if instead we sent them to, they could fill out a sign-up form to add themselves to the app itself or to the web app, and then they'll show up there if they want to. Basically, we capture all the same data, but now if someone comes looking for a tour guide, they can find tour guides that are already signed up through the app. Is that nuance? Hopefully that slight change, instead of adding them to a waiting list, where you can look at the waiting list and say, oh, wow, this site has a lot of people on the waiting list. Let's develop this out. Let's send that over to the programmers and have them create something. Instead, we put up a form that adds them to our website using no code like Glide Apps. And that's one of the things. Glide Apps, it looks like a phone screen, but it works on web and Android and iOS. You don't have to know any of that technical stuff. It will build it all for you, and you can put it up on your custom domain. So it really is. I'm not going into details because in this case, you don't need to know the details. Half the time, the details matter. In this case, like they've done it for you. You just need to go find solve problems until you get something that you can put out there. And then once you do it, you can just copy it to your next domain. In case of Glide apps, they charge, I believe, $30 per app. So, or $32 per month per custom app. So custom app, to my understanding, is a custom domain name. So you wouldn't want to put it up on every domain name you have out there, but if you have a great domain name that is like your bread and butter, then 30 some bucks and you have your website built. That includes like the hosting of it. You just point your domain name to their service. So anyhow, sounds like a commercial for Glide apps, but there are actually many, many other no-code options out there. So one resource, let me give you a resource that I am using. I'm going to type this into the screen here. I did not have this set up. No code. Okay, so here is the this is the website that I found, nocode.mba. Yes, that's an actual web address, even though it's not .com. This is somebody that commented on one of the Twitter posts that I put out there on Twitter. Drew Wash, W-A-S-H, Drew Wash is my Twitter. And here's what they have on this. So this is a good opportunity to kind of see what's around. So it basically sells a course or something to where you can learn about no code. But what I really liked about this is this idea of a directory here. So over on the directory, yes, I'm mentioning Glide, and yes, I've mentioned Adello, and yes, I've mentioned Bubble, but there's all kinds of different apps out there. There's all kinds of no-code options for you. And you could pretty much come in here and choose what it is that you're looking to build, whether it's a website or web app, and it will show you all the different tools that you possibly can use. So for websites, I know that we recommend card.com and Doric.com, which you'll find over on from domain-to-profit.com. We have some tools listed there. But web apps, for example, here's that Bubble. And a mobile app, I'm guessing Adalo's on there, Glide's on there. So you'll see medium, moderate learning curve, moderate. So I'm not even sure. I've not looked at V1, whatever this one over here is, but easy learning curve. So maybe that's even easier than Glide. Who knows? Hard to say. It's easy to say. You can go over to this web address down over here, the nocode.mba, and you can look up their directory and check out some of the tools and possibly find one that is good for you. So thank you for, I believe it's actually whoever created that site shared that with me. I don't have a tweet up in front of me to see it. So, okay, so nocode.mba. So how cool is this? We live in an age where there's a bunch of domain names that are available, and you could look at it and you're like, wow, that's a great domain name. I'd love to build something on that. I've always wanted to build something on any number of different domain names. And now, whether you're a techie or not, you can. So I do want to take a moment to just share like some of the risks, because there are risks involved in going no code. Primarily, the big risk that I want to mention is the idea that you're going to be locked down to the software that you use. If you use Glide, for example, yeah, they're going to build this app for you. Their software works, but you will have to pay them every month as long as your app is around. No big deal. Perfectly fine, except for what happens when you decide to grow. Maybe your business is taken off and you're doing great stuff and you're like, oh, we really need this custom feature. And it turns out that Glide Apps doesn't provide it. Well, now you get into a position of, well, do you move your app? Do you recreate it elsewhere? Do you custom create your app? You know, there's all kinds of growing pains that are going to come from this no-code idea. It's great for starting, not very good for the long term. So in general, you're still probably going to be best just creating something that you own, that you control in the long term, that is. But if you're starting off and you're like, I could either learn to program, which is going to take me, 8 to 16 months of pretty good work. Yes, you're going to learn a skill, which I highly recommend. But if you don't have that and you're just like, I want to get this out in the world, I've always wanted to try this entrepreneur type thing and see if I can build a business. Well, no code's a great option. I mean, after you're making a few $1,000s, chances are you'll be a lot more likely to be like, hey, making a few $1,000s a month, maybe I'll go ahead and learn how to program or learn options other than just this no code stuff. So, what came first, chicken or the egg? So we have some more time. I'm going to continue to dive down through some of the domain names that are available this week. Again, just on the no code stuff, I'm not a no code expert by any means. However, I do like it's good stuff. It's starting to get to the point that it is certainly worth looking into. I anticipate that we will. I anticipate that we will likely start to use some no code stuff right at the beginning. So instead of putting up just a basic form that allows people to join a waiting list, we're probably going to start looking at no code apps that allow us to put up a website and a app itself that will allow people to sign up, not just to join a waiting list, but to actually join the website. And maybe they pay us like some really low fee, $50 a year, $100 a year or something to register and to show up on the site. Or they have the option of saying, just alert me when the site's up. You can give them the options of saying whether they want to show up or not. Shouldn't be that difficult to include in the code. So either way, I love the fact that there's more flexibility to it than just simply building a database of people that may be interested at some point. Give them the opportunity to have a conversation with you right now, but then convert right then. Instead of running down, to that idea of, capturing their information, having a conversation, and then converting, give them the opportunity right off the bat to, capture their information and possibly self-promote themselves to somebody that wants to go ahead and sign up and convert themselves to somebody that appears on the website, possibly even pays you. We'll have to dive into payment stuff a little later on because I've not gotten into it enough to see how the payment stuff works. But supposedly, it's pretty much like add a subscribe or a payment button and it ties in. It's super easy. So supposedly, fingers crossed. Okay, Fishzilla. Goodtest.com, reusableMass.com, automated loans, Electrician Alberta. If you live in Alberta, you might be interested in that one. Interesting domain name for you. Choosing You. Rent Real Estate. That might be worth looking at. Rent Real Estate. I mean, there's better ways of saying that, but, it's an option. Can't always get your first choice. So if you can get a domain name that kind of specifies what's going to be on it, then at least that's better than nothing. Nightworker.com. This sounds like a great brand. I'm just going to highlight that one. Vehicle Options. Not 100% sure what I'd put on that one. Curious as to how you develop it. But vehicleoptions.com, nightworker.com. Dealer Shield, Digital Senses, Premium Signature, Spa Ninja. So a lot of these will come off as brandables. I call them brandable domain names, basically meaning they sound cool, but they don't actually specify what you're going to find on the domain name. I'm a big fan of something called a generic keyword domain name, So towing.com, it tells you what you're going to find on that. It's going to be a towing website. Photobooths.com, you're going to find photo booths. DJs.com, guess what you're going to find there? DJs. So I like it to be very clear as to what you're going to find on that domain name. So when you have domains like, Spa Ninja, I don't know what that means. Is that somebody's personal website? What is that? It's great. It's a fun brand, but not a generic domain development type domain. FinanceTravel.com, ProjectSpaces.com. That's kind of an interesting domain. Project Spaces, Laser Data. So what you're looking for when you're looking through domain names is something that is of interest to you, that maybe you can bring a little bit of experience or passion to, and then from there, or just something is a great domain name that will lead to an opportunity for you. Then it's a matter of if you get it cheap enough. As you saw from some of those early domains that we talked about early in the show, they can definitely go for quite a bit of money. Last week, I mentioned homecontractors.com. That went up last week. It ended up going for $51,000. And I believe last week I also mentioned possibly something, I can't remember what it was, something Mojo. Anyhow, I ended up getting that one. I loved it. Something, I can't remember what the name was. Let's go look. I'm going to go look for this just because I love domains. Figure, what the heck? No harm in looking what I can't remember. I'm curious now. Anybody else curious? Oh, that's what it is. RemoteMojo.com. Remote Mojo. I don't know. I'm a sucker for silly domains. So, but I got RemoteMojo.com for $12. That would be a domain name that is definitely considered a brandable domain name, not something you would necessarily invest in. I just thought it was fun. It costs $10 a year for a .com domain name through GoDaddy. So, $10 a year, if you like it enough, then you pay it. Otherwise, let it go. Makeup Match, that could be an interesting type domain name for any makeup people out there. I don't know what it would be. Maybe something like have a photo of somebody and people guess the makeup that they have on there, and they provide links to where you can buy the same makeup. So you're matching the makeup to an actual person. So like a celebrity photo, and you're like, oh, that looks like, I got nothing. I don't know any makeup brands. But it looks like a certain kind of makeup, and they link to what that makeup they assume it is. So makeupmatch.com, just an interesting social way to sell makeup, possibly, or being involved in that industry. Okay, we'll go one more screen, see if we spot any domains down into the down deep in here, and we'll see if we find something that gets you a reward for sticking with us late into the show here. Sometimes these are where I find my favorite domains. Third or fourth page where the prices start to go down. The domains we look at the top of the page are going to be the most expensive ones. They're the ones that are like viewed as they're the domains that are most bids already. So as we start to get down here, we're starting to get into domain names that are a little more obscure to the computers. People don't find them as much. So this is where we get to possibly bring you some value by sharing a domain name that other people won't know about. Of course, you can go out to expireddomains.net, and over on expireddomains.net, you can do all the exact same thing as I'm doing here. There's nothing I've showed you so far really requires money. All free. Only when you go to, oh, look at this. Okay. So here's an interesting one. you can see that expired domains is proper casing this one as bartrender.com, but that is actually also bartrender.com. Not the great, like I would like if it was bartrends.com or something like that. But that's the kind of thing. That's why you got to look at these a little bit in person as opposed to just leaving it to others to kind of bring you great domains. And if you see one, feel free to call it out in chat or in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. Try to go quick. Pets, Heroes, Rehab Connect. Okay, I feel the momentum pulling away. Oh, how about rankmonster.com? Rankmonster.com sounds like a pretty interesting tool for possibly search engine optimization or the idea of ranking in the search engines. You can see that possibly somebody had something built over here. These are referring to links from different domain names and websites. They show that there's been a website up on it. People are linking to the site. So that's sometimes a positive thing. Sometimes it actually can hurt you. DominicanWeek.com. There you go. Down in the Dominican Republic just last week. TopTravelInsurance.com. Interesting domain name. Certainly travel insurance is a common thing a lot of people buy when you travel, especially in the COVID era when you don't know if the trip's going to actually happen. Okay, we're coming to the end. Buy, sells, home. Has that trap S. I talk about that on the show. That middle S is a trap. Trap, run away, run away. It's a bad domain name. Typically that middle S means that Photo Haven. Interesting. Labs. Okay. So there we go. Hopefully we talked about some interesting no-code options that you could use, possibly in one of the domain names that we brought to you today. We've talked about some great domain names that I think will, some of them can be domains. As you saw, I put a bid in on a few of them, and we'll see if I can actually pull any of them out. I always encourage you, if you value a domain name, if you believe in it, you pay what you want to for it. I appreciate those who kind of don't want to bid against me on stuff, but I want you to have the opportunity you want. I want you to create your life. Don't worry about what domains I'm interested in. So let me just kind of give us some. One of the domains I really loved was adbuilder.com. We had boatshopper.com, sexualtherapy.com, gardenlandscape.com, electronicrepairs.com. I didn't mention Bottle Design, but I actually had that one highlighted. Bottledesign.com. Let me go back out and share the screens. I like this one for the niche purposes. So that one's $40 currently, 7 days left in the auction. So the reason why I wanted to include this one was I know of there's a photography somebody that does photography that I've seen used as an example, and there's so many people that do photography. They take photos and portraits of kids and whatever else, all kinds of people. My daughters do photography even. And you get lost because a lot of people do photography. Well, there's a guy that does, or there's a person, I don't know if it's a guy or gal, but they specialized in taking photos of products. That's all they do, photos of products. And if I'm not mistaken, let me look. I want to say that okay, maybe not. They own, I can't remember the domain name, but all they do is take photos of products. They make your products look great. So when I saw bottledesign.com, well, how do you make your product stand out on a store shelf or, online or whatever else? The design often matters. It matters. Like people want to have that, you open up the box, you get a shipment or something, and you want it to look great. So bottledesign.com could be the people that specialize in making great bottles for, products. So that was kind of one of the reasons I tossed that domain name on my list. Forgot about that one. So bottledesign.com, chicagopizza.com. I didn't mention it, but of course, a big market with a big domain. That one was going for a few $1,000s already. Quicktest.com, rentrealestate.com, nightworker.com, vehicleoptions.com, makeupmatch.com, and rankmonster.com are some of the ones that I highlighted during the show. So hopefully you found something that you're interested in. Like I said, it's a rocket that's laying out there. There's a deadline set. We know when that rocket launch is going to happen. It's going to happen at the end of that auction. It's just a matter of who's going to be on board when it shoots off. So is it going to be you? Can you build something with code, without code, Glide apps, for example? So hopefully you got some great value. I'm sure you did. I've been rather excited about diving into the no-code world. I'm going to spend even more time on it over the next few weeks or months, and we'll see probably some of the different domain names that we own. I'll show you as I build them out with some of the no-code options. There may be something that you can apply to yourself and hopefully turn that domain name, whether it's a new one or something you've held for a long time, turn a domain name into a business, bringing value to you, letting you change your life and live the life that you want with some more freedom, flexibility, but also sharing it with the world and bringing value and creating and putting something out there for others. So thank you so much for joining me. Always love to have you here. If you haven't liked this video, please subscribe and share with others. This video, YouTube is the best place to find us. You can just search for Drew Wash, like wash your hands, over on YouTube. Subscribe on there. And I'll see you next week, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Domain to Profit. See you next week.